Welcome to the Kling Kerfuffle, where we get to learn about people, places, and neat little interesting facts. And today I have an amazing guest that's out of Dallas, Texas. That's right, you heard Dallas, Texas, a far way off from me here in Tampa. His name is Rob Nickester, and he is a motivational coach as well as got a great story. I can't wait for you guys to start talking to him. And without further ado, welcome to the show, Rob.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. It's great to be here.
Thanks for joining us today. So the first things first, for our fans that are watching this, we were talking a little bit about the pre-show, but it does look like you have the Dallas Cowboys behind you. Now, a lot of our fans are Eagles fans here. So do you want to explain the Dallas story a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I am a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. Have been my whole life. But I live in Dallas, Texas, North Dallas, and I actually have an office out of the Dallas Cowboys headquarters. So, as you can imagine, when you rent some shared office space in the Cowboys headquarters, everything around me is Dallas Cowboys. Literally, the staff, everybody out there is wearing Dallas jerseys. So, it's kind of one of those things, whether you're a Dallas fan or not. If you live here, you can't get away from it. You kind of have to be a fair weather fan.
So what's the tempo at the Dallas facility right now?
It seems pretty upbeat. Everybody seems really excited for this year. So we'll see how things pan out.
Oh, so let's hear a little bit about your story. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Rob.
Yep. So I am it's when I describe myself, I'm like, sometimes like, where do I start? What actually am I? What I'll tell you, I'm a father, I'm a husband, but I'm a real estate investor. I'm a high performance life coach. I own some apartment complexes. We have 6 apartment complexes. We also have 3 brand new car washes we just built, as well. I'm in the process of building an RV park, and I have a high performance coaching business where I help people level up their lives, no matter where they're at in their life, no matter if it's on a personal level or a professional level. Some people just feel stuck, like they're spinning their wheels, and I come in and I just help them get their life on a level where they want to live, or even level up, and that includes business. So if your life is great and you just want to 10x your business, I can help with that as well. But I started off, as a normal kid from high school who barely graduated high school. I was a little bit of let's say I had some extra energy when I was young. Barely graduated high school, went right into the Marines. Out of the Marines, I became a police officer for almost 5 years. And then I was an IT guy. So I have been an IT guy for the bulk of my career, almost 35 years. And that being an infrastructure architect, helping design technology and technology that goes in data centers. Throughout that process, I've always been a self-educated, self-help type of person, where every single day I try to be better than I was yesterday. I'm always working on myself. And when you spend most of your time constantly trying to better yourself, then everything around you is going to get better. All the people around you, you're gonna lift yourself up. You're gonna lift those people up. And that's what I try to do every day. And at some point I was into real estate investing. I had a couple of single family rentals. I slowly moved into multifamily, so apartment buildings. And then in that journey, I ended up helping and mentoring a lot of people who are like, hey, how do I go from not a college graduate to owning millions of dollars in apartment buildings? How does that happen? And so I spent a lot of time mentoring people, and out of that, just really had the calling to help people more. And I seem to enjoy, and just so much more fulfilling to help people overall in general, not just on real estate, but in life, and help them, level up. And that's how the high performance coaching business came about. And it just took off like something I couldn't have imagined. It kind of grew its own legs. And, I still don't know where this journey's taken me. It's still on a monthly basis. It's evolving. But that's pretty much what I do. I spent a good portion of my time in real estate, working on my projects, and the rest of it doing coaching.
Do you find that your time in the Marine Corps and in law enforcement helped you become more focused and aware of your surroundings and disciplined to what you're doing today?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the structure alone makes a huge difference. No excuses, just get things done. For the military, it was more structure and get things done, no excuses. You can do anything. There is no quit, that kind of mentality. Take ownership, take accountability. And in the police officer realm, it was more about being a first responder. It was more about handling things as they happen and, being able to work under pressure and in very fast situations that came up. So both of those have their own takeaways, but definitely had a impact on my life. What I really think shaped me and molded me to who I am is, one of the stories I've told people is I got hit by a car when I was 5 years old, which I should have been dead. I got off a school bus. I was one of those little kids you see in the videos when you're in school. In 1978, I got off a school bus and the car went around the school bus doing like 58 miles an hour. And it hit me and it collapsed my lung, split skin in my heart, broke my leg, shattered my elbow, broke my arm. I spent 3.5 months in intensive care. About 9 months after that in a body cast from the chest down, and then another year in physical therapy. So I really am a walking miracle child from that event. But I think that taught me perseverance and to never quit and to never give up, and just pure strength of, don't ever stop. If you can never give up. And when I look back, I really think that's where my core strength came from, to just always move forward, no matter what, no matter how many times you fail.
What happened to the driver? That's interesting. Like, what became of them?
Yeah, you know what? To be honest with you, I don't know. I can tell you because it was 1978. I was 5 years old at the time. What I can tell you is that he was an 18-year-old kid, and he had a baby in his arms while he was driving. I don't know the whole story of what happened to him, but it was kind of a crazy scenario. And so he wasn't paying attention, and school bus was stopped. And at that time, 78 was a very different time. I know that the flashing lights on the school bus were broken. They weren't working and they hadn't gotten them fixed. And so he just went flying around the school bus. I was just getting home from school. My mother opened the front door because it was about that time. She opens the screen door and I took off running across the street. And really, that's what saved my life, the doctor said, is that basically I was running, because he would have just mowed me down if I hadn't been running. But when I was actually hit, when you're running, your legs up, your arms are up, he actually caught me. My arm was up, my leg was up, and it kind of protected me. I took the brunt of the blow on the left side. And that's what kind of caused him to throw me and knocked me out of my shoes. I mean, I remember it right up till I passed out because my lungs were collapsed, so I couldn't breathe. And so I remember, I'm going to guess 30 seconds to a minute of it. I don't even know, until I passed out. And then I woke up in an emergency room. I woke up in an operating room, and then they put me back to sleep pretty quickly. And then I woke up in a hospital bed in traction, like with cast on my legs and my chest and my whole body. And I had needles or steel rods through my limbs, holding them in the air. Yeah.
Wow.
It was pretty crazy.
And then you were still able to join the Marine Corps with that body destruction. I guess your body healed okay.
Yeah, and so it was pretty crazy. I remember, so my left arm was in a cast, then a body cast from the chest down, and that went down one leg. And because my left hip was broken, I actually had a separate cast on my left leg going down, and then I had a steel rod through my left leg, holding my knee up in the air in traction because my hip was broken. So they positioned it so I couldn't move. And when I got those casts off, I remember the doctor, I have a very specific memory of when the doctor cut my cast off my arm, because my elbow, as you can see, there's a scar here.
Yeah.
The doctor he cuts the cast off, and he's telling my father that, yeah, he might never have mobility of that arm again. He probably won't be able to use it. And I'm really kind of not paying attention to him. And I just start doing this. And the doctor stops talking and he looks at me and he walks over and he's like, "You're moving your elbow," because my elbow it was shattered. It wasn't broken. It was shattered into, pieces. And I was just, lucky, prayed, my parents prayed, and I healed well. And I actually became a pretty good athlete in high school. And I just I didn't want to, there was nothing going to hold me back. I heard a lot while I went through that ordeal, and shortly after that, I very quickly became that child where my grandparents and my parents were like, don't do that. You're going to get hurt. You can't run. You can't do, they kept telling me not to do things that I was just doing. I was just having fun. I was a child. I was playing, I was running. And they told me, you can't do that. You're going to hurt yourself. And I was like, what do you mean? I can't do that. And so very quickly, I can't do that always turned into, I will show you that I can do that. And so I worked really hard to learn to walk again and to just become strong. And I became an athlete, and I was on the football team. I was a track star. And then, I went into the Marines. I became a police officer, and I very rarely brought up what happened to me because I didn't want to point it out. I didn't want, especially in the Marines.
Yeah.
I played it down big time, right? Like, oh yeah, I was hit by a car when I was 5. I'm fine. And the doctors examined me, and I could do everything they wanted me to do. So they were like, okay, let me in.
So you get out of the Marine Corps, you stop being in law enforcement, and you get involved in real estate and eventually car washes. How does that come about?
What really kind of happened, that whole journey there, is I had been in IT a very long time by this point. I was making decent money, and my kids were grown. So it wasn't too long ago. I'm going to say 2012, 2011, right in that area, when I had been working really hard my whole life. As you can imagine, I started a family young, had 2 kids, and I was living paycheck to paycheck, didn't graduate college, didn't have any opportunities. I just, my grades weren't good. I was a crazy kid in high school, and, I was, not the best student back in those days because I wasn't there. I was skipping a lot. I was, having a lot of fun. And I was energetic and ambitious, and I constantly wanted to be better. As I got older, as I matured, I wanted to be better. I wanted a future for my family. I wanted a future for my wife and myself. And so being a self-educated, self-help type of guy, I found Tony Robbins in the early 90s. And so that always inspired me to move forward and do things and take risk. And, I started investing in the stock market on my own. I started teaching myself how to buy and sell stocks and in options trading. And once I got a little extra money, my kids grew up, kind of moved out of the house. My oldest went into the Air Force. I suddenly had some money that I was able to play with, and I started investing in the stock market. And one year I took a bonus that I had gotten, which was roughly around 13 grand. And I put it in the stock market, and within a year turned it into over $100,000.
Wow.
So that's when I was like, okay, I may have a future here. I may be able to do something where I'm not, working my whole life, and I'm creating generational cash flow and investments for my family. And then promptly lost 30,000 in the beginning of the next year. And that's when I started going, okay, I really need a better plan strategically on how to create a better financial future for myself. And that's when I had already at this point had a rental, a single family rental, but I didn't know what I had. I really wasn't into it. I just did it because I thought it was smart and the opportunity presented itself, but I really wasn't into real estate yet. I sold that after some time. Knowing what I know now, I probably would have never sold that. But I made some money in the stock market, then I lost money. And so I really quickly decided that I need to, once I make some money in the stock market, I need a better plan. I need to take those capital gains or those gains in the stock market, and I need to put them somewhere real, more tangible, something that is going to grow with less risk, but still have some great growth for the future. And that's when I decided real estate was the best avenue. Back then, that was probably, like I said, around 2011, 2012. That's when I got a hold of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I read Robert Kiyosaki. Yeah. And I started to think about assets and liabilities a lot differently. And, liabilities are anything that takes cash out of your pocket. Assets are anything that puts cash into your pocket. So everything out there is a liability. Most people have liabilities. You think your home is a liability. Well, is cash coming in or going out with your primary residence, right?
Right.
And so I began to think in those terms. And so that's when I started researching and looking at like multifamily and other types of investments in real estate. And, when somebody first suggested multifamily to me, my first question was, what is multifamily? Well, that's apartment buildings. And I laughed and said, I don't have millions of dollars to buy an apartment building. What are you, crazy? But the more I thought about it, the more I talked about it, and the more I looked into it, the more realistic it seemed to be. The more I realized, you know what? You don't have to be anybody special. You just have to learn a few things, find the right partners, get some capital, or even raise capital from others, which is what people talk about, other people's money.
Yep.
You have to learn how to do it, but it wasn't out of the realm of possible. So that's when I decided, you know what, I'm going all in and I'm going to do this. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? Right. You fail, you pick yourself back up and you do it all over again. And I'm not really a failure. I don't fail well. Right. I go until I succeed, no matter what it is, no matter how long it takes. So I decided I was going to do that. A few years passed because I had what a lot of people experience is basically analysis paralysis. I didn't feel ready. A lot of people have this. They failure to launch because you feel like you're not smart enough. You feel like you're not good enough. You have imposter syndrome. And these are things that I talk about with my high performance coaching now, is people don't take those risks because they're afraid of failure. They're afraid they're not good enough. And one day I realized that was completely me. I hadn't done anything in years, even though people I had met doing the same type of thing I were doing killer. Like they own apartments already. They're doing it. And I'm like, how are they doing it? And, 2 years ago, we were having a conversation in a coffee shop about doing this and they're doing it. And I'm here still doing nothing. And that's when I really realized it was because of lack of action. It was because that fear, that imposter syndrome was holding me from taking action, which is what separates the high performers and the achievers from the people who are just sitting still, is taking action. And so I very quickly motivated myself and I just started doing it, started taking action. And within that year, I think it might've been 4 or 5 months, I closed my first deal, 60 apartments right outside of Pittsburgh. And it was a $4.25 million apartment complex.
Wow.
And, from there, I got more and more and more. And now I've got 6 apartment complexes that I'm partnered in. And we just built 3 car washes from the ground up. I say just built. That's been a project for the last year and a half. And I'm building an RV park now. And I'm also acquiring some RV parks. And then the coaching business, so that's really to, I hope I didn't go too long on answering.
Oh, no. That's great because, I myself have dabbled a little in real estate, not to the extent of what you have. I've bought in property and flipped property, not houses, but actual physical land. I found that it was just easier to buy land and then flip it over. And that's how I made, some money on my own, selling little pieces. Like, I'll give you an example. I bought one in an HOA a few years ago, and it would have cost me an extraordinary amount of money to develop it. So I held on to it. And then about 9 months later, I got a call from an investor, said, "Hey, do you want to sell this piece of property?" I said, "Well, what's the price?" And it almost doubled in value in that 9 months.
Yeah.
So I said, "All right, absolutely, here you go." By the time I got done paying everything and all the stuff, I walked away with almost double the value. So I get kind of what you're saying. I just haven't played it in that aspect. But if you're talking to somebody that's new, so somebody like myself, maybe that's dabbled in it a little bit, or somebody that maybe has partnered with somebody but is getting ready to make a move, what advice would you give them other than just go for it? Like, what are some of the technical advices you would give somebody?
Well, so first of all, you need to research and you need to understand the lingo, what people are talking about. You just can't jump into real estate, whether it's single family or multifamily real estate, and expect people to take you seriously. It takes some research. It takes some learning, some self-investment. But outside of that, if you're willing to just be open and learn, you can accomplish anything. And I have been proof of that, which is why people come to me and want to work with me and want me to mentor them, is because they've seen me go from absolutely nothing to something. And most people let fear hold them back, limiting beliefs hold them back. But you can accomplish anything with just a little bit of effort and micro steps, right? Baby steps, or Kaizen. The Japanese have a word called Kaizen, it means micro steps. And that's how high performers and some of the best, most successful people in the world accomplish anything. It's not that they're just so amazing. It's that they have a repetitive schedule or repetitive tasks that they do on a consistent basis. So if you take steps on a consistent basis working toward a goal, you're going to accomplish that goal. So a lot of it's about, researching, putting, self-education and, putting effort into bettering yourself, and then setting those goals of what you want to accomplish, and then breaking that goal down into micro steps, and just consistently every single day thinking, what's going to move the needle today? What are 3 things I can do today to move my needle forward closer to my goal? That's it. That right alone. And you can accomplish anything if you just think of that way. You get up every single day. What are 3 things I can do today to move the needle forward toward closer to my goal?
Wow. So what about the car washes? How did you get into that?
The car washes is a fantastic one, and the money is more lucrative than apartment complexes because there's less overhead. It's more of a cash flow business. It's commercial real estate. So once I got bit by the entrepreneurial bug, which is really what happened, right? I was a corporate guy my whole life. I was afraid to take risk. I wanted that security. I fell into that trap of that paycheck, somebody giving me a guaranteed paycheck. And I wanted that security and that safety. And I was afraid, well, what if I fail? What if I go on my own? What if I can't pay my bills? But once I got into multifamily, the entrepreneurial bug really bit me. And I really realized how much I enjoyed it, how much I like working on my own schedule, my own projects with the people I choose, with the people who have the same values and their thoughts and ideas align with mine. And car washes was kind of a natural progression in a way where once you get into commercial real estate, which is multifamily, right? People think multifamily is residential. It's not, because people live there. Anything with 5 units or more is considered commercial. So once you get into commercial real estate, then it's not a huge leap to think about storage, to think about coin-op laundry, to think about, car washes, anything that can create cash flow where you're doing very little. And what happened was when the market started, when the interest rates started going really high, things started becoming difficult. Things were already a bit difficult, especially in the Dallas market. And as you know, the Florida market. Real estate is really, really hot in Texas and Florida. And prices are high. Brokers want them, they want to ask the most they can get out of a property. And it's not easy. And so with prices already being high, things don't pencil out very often. And then when interest rates started skyrocketing, it really made multifamily very difficult. Made it difficult to find properties. It made it difficult to run existing properties, especially as more of vacancies come online, as more apartment complexes are being built. Now you've got more apartments available to rent. Now rents drop. And if you know anything about multifamily, the valuation of an apartment complex is based on the monthly income, right? And so when rents go down, income goes down, the apartment complex is worth less. And the banks do pay attention, and they run those numbers very frequently. And when those numbers go down and your apartment complex suddenly is of less value, well, then you might have to raise some capital. You might have to do some creative things to keep that value up. And it gets really, really difficult. And so as that happened, I began thinking, don't put all my eggs in one basket, right? So you need to diversify your portfolio. And so it was natural to start looking at other avenues in commercial real estate. And car washes was a big one. And I have some friends who were talking about it. I was lucky in the fact that I met a partner who had been running car washes for 25 years. He had built, operated, and sold 67 car washes by the time I
Wow.
met him. And
67.
so, yeah. And so he knew the business and he knew what he was doing. So I quickly created a partnership with him. And he is kind of the bread and butter and the brains of the operation, where I work on the raising capital side and investment side. We have another partner who's our real estate attorney. He does all the legal stuff. And then a friend of mine, a partner, Ronnie Corbin, he really runs the operation. He's the one that's been doing it for, probably close to 30 years now. So I lucked out and then I found a fantastic partner that I could jump in with and operate. A lot of people get into car washes. They don't know what they're doing. They just think, oh, it's just a different business. They buy a used car wash or they try to get into it. And it can be difficult. I was lucky enough to meet the right person at the right time. I saw that open door and I jumped. And that's how I got into the car washes. And, the cash flow, the returns are much higher than multifamily.
So now you're getting into RV parks, which is interesting because there's, we've had on the show here too, people that live this nomadic lifestyle. I mean, I remember my grandparents and to my grandparents' brother and stuff like that, that generation would go camping a lot. They would take a fifth wheel or they'd have like one of those driving campers and they would go on vacation doing that. And while you still see that, it's not as frequent as much. Most people now, from what I see, there's a lot of just nomadic people. I don't want to, people that move around a lot for maybe work, like traveling nurses or people that enjoy living the RV life and stuff. So tell us a little bit about the RV parks and that aspect of it.
Yeah. So the RV parks have always been really attractive to me, right? I love that lifestyle. I grew up camping. It's just always been an attractive, another stream of revenue if you can get into it. And at the beginning, I wasn't as excited for it as I am now. But over the past, let's say 6 years, I've been in commercial real estate. I've really seen RV parks evolve, and especially since COVID. And I think COVID really made all the difference in the world. We're starting to see this trend. Like you said, people are becoming more nomadic. And I really think that is made possible because of Starlink. Elon Musk, right? Once they created Starlink and suddenly you had high-speed internet available in a camper or an RV, that changed the game. Now I can be an IT guy, I can be a sales, I can be all kinds of different things and work anywhere in the world because I've got a high-speed internet connection.
Right.
And I think once COVID hit and people were locking themselves down, they were not going where crowds are. They were trying to get away. They were living in a lot of younger people, especially, bought RVs and bought campers. Now, there's more to that story, right? The other piece of that story is housing prices were off the charts. Real estate was high. Apartments, you couldn't find an apartment in North Dallas. They were you put an application in and you couldn't get an apartment because there were not enough apartments. Once we did COVID and everybody was locked down, and then all of a sudden everything opened back up, now everybody's like, I need my own space. They're spreading out. They're going back out there. People started buying RVs and they started living in RVs because they could work remotely anywhere suddenly. The same with apartments. People wanted to get away. They were living with? They were living with their parents. People started moving around. And so we've not only seen people become more nomadic just because they love that lifestyle and Starlink allows them to do that, but we've also seen people do it because it's affordable housing. That's really the key, is we're starting to see RV parks. So like around me in Texas, you can't go to an RV park that's not full. You're lucky if you can find a spot. They're all full.
Wow.
And it's because people are starting to use them as housing, whether it's temporary housing or whether they just love that lifestyle. And so I began doing some research with a partner of mine, and we quickly, we would call RV parks and talk to RV park owners, and they'd be like, yeah, if you build or of an RV park that's got some spots, let me know. We'll send them there because we have no spots available. And so when we started asking the question of, well, what's your average stay right now? How long is your average person staying in the RV park? And the answer was coming back at 5 years. What?
Wow.
5 years? That really gave us this whole, okay, wait a minute. Now we're talking about people are using this for affordable housing.
Hmm.
And in the grand scheme of things, it's looking very attractive. So, if you take 30 acres of land and you build yourself a nice little RV park and you're charging, let's say $500-$600 a month for a concrete slab, you're putting some decent amenities in there. Suddenly you've got a pretty good stream of cash flow.
Right. I mean, and there's a lot of people too that, I watch a lot of these RV shows, like you said, Starlink's been a godsend. So
Yeah.
a lot of people they become snowbirds. We have them I think you have them in Texas as well as we have them in Florida. The people that come down from, say, Minnesota or Wisconsin, or, I'm originally from Pennsylvania. A lot of people from Pennsylvania come down here and they stay for 5-6 months. And then you're also getting that snowbird cash flow. And like you said, Starlink has been like a godsend.
Yeah. So that was really a game changer. And once you start putting all those pieces of the puzzle together, it's like, there's a lot of opportunity here for everybody. I mean, there's more than enough. And I'm a big believer of abundance mindset. So I help everybody out as much as I can. I will teach you things I know, because I know that there's plenty to go around. There's plenty of customers, there's plenty of clients, there's plenty of people willing to help. And, a rising tide raises all ships. And so, by helping other people out and teaching people opportunity out there, you can create more, and there's more abundance. And then there's plenty of people who want to live in RV parks and they want to find good RV parks. So if you create a great community, people are going to come.
And I'm going to steal that saying, a rising tide raises more ships. I've never heard that.
Raises all ships.
Raises
right?
all ships. I'm going to steal that. I like that. I've never heard that saying before.
Yeah.
So you're now, getting into what you're doing now, the coaching. You have a big passion for coaching. Let's talk a little bit about that. What about your high performance coaching?
So, the high performance coaching was really interesting for me to get into, and it was a long road to get here. And what I mean by that is I felt the calling for a very, very, very long time, but I pushed that down. I kind of hid that, that's that part of yourself, that voice inside saying, maybe you should be doing this. But the fear, the imposter syndrome, that made me push it down. Like, what are people going to think? What do I have to offer? And there are so many people that resonate with that you realize when you actually become vulnerable and you talk about how you really feel, people come out of the woodwork going, man, that resonated with me. I feel the same way. And I was afraid to take action. And so it was a long time coming where I was feeling pulled that direction. And finally, I had my own breakthrough where I realized that I am enough and that I have a lot to offer and a lot I can teach people. And that by not opening myself up and being vulnerable and helping people overcome their mindset, their imposter syndrome, their limiting beliefs, and helping them create financial freedom. If I didn't help people, I'm doing them a disservice. Because I've had all these mentors in my life, like the Tony Robbins, the Dean Graziosi, the Bob Proctors, all the people you look up to, you read about, Napoleon Hill, Robert Kiyosaki, all these things you learn in your life. Not everybody's going to come into contact with them. Not everybody knows who they are. And so when you can share the things that you've learned with somebody who may never learn these things in another place, you're doing them a disservice if you don't help people. And that's really how it came about. It was that decision I do have something to offer. I have knowledge. I can help people create such a better life for themselves and financial freedom and just level up in every way. And that's what I do is I help people with mindset. And there's a lot of people out there who think, oh, I don't need help with mindset. I'm good. I'm happy. I'm this, I'm that. And you'd be surprised how many people I have conversations with. And after about 15 minutes, they're going, wow, I had no idea that I had that belief and it was really holding me back. And, so there's things with mindset, but it's not just mindset. It's imposter syndrome where people feel like they're a fraud. Well, when you feel like you're a fraud, maybe, that's a sign of growing. That's a sign that you're stepping outside your comfort zone. And when people feel like that, they stop, they pull back, but they shouldn't, because that's holding you back. That's a limiting belief, right? Most of your limiting beliefs aren't real. They're just inherited, or they're imagined. The things we're taught, like I'm not smart enough, or I don't deserve this, things that people don't talk about. And then I also want to teach people financial and personal freedoms. You weren't born to trade your time for money until you die. Life is worth living. You just have to understand that you don't need to be a slave to trading your time for money. There's other ways and other things out there you can do to create passive income or financial freedom and emotional freedom. And so that's why I became a life coach.
What do you find is the number one problem when you're meeting with a new client, or you're meeting with somebody you're working with? What is the number one problem that they come to you with? Is it mindset? Is it their growth? Like, hey, I'm stagnant, I can't get beyond this. Hey, I want to take this opportunity. What would be the number one? Maybe number two.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's kind of a combination of mindset. And in a lot of instances, they don't realize it's mindset until you have a conversation, you say a few things, and they're like, the light bulb goes on. But it typically starts out with, I feel stuck. I feel like I'm spinning my wheels. And no matter what I do, I'm not getting ahead in life. And really that comes from procrastination. Becomes from risk taking. They're afraid to take risk. And then it goes right into fear and limiting beliefs. And everything comes down to your core of your belief system. And a lot of that is the sum of the five. And I teach people the sum of the five is you are the sum of the five people you spend the most time with.
Mm-hmm.
And those people are either going to pull you up and be an amazing support system, or they're going to pull you down. And so it's very important to guard the gates to your mind, right? Because you can very quickly find yourself in a room or in a group of people that take your self-esteem away, that take your confidence away. And in a lot of cases, I would say most cases, you probably don't even realize it. People will sit in a room and they have conversations, or they're just BSing, and they walk away and they feel negative, or they feel down, or they feel like, they don't feel good enough, or they don't feel, it's a negative feeling. And when you find yourself in that on a daily basis, that's when you really need to reevaluate the people you spend the time with. And you may need to cut people out of your life and limit the time you spend with them. And it's really important to put yourself in the right room with the right people, because if you find the right rooms and you put yourself in there, you should never be the smartest person in a room. When you're the smartest person in a room, you need to find a new room.
Yeah, I've been down that road myself. When I was much younger, I lived in Pennsylvania, and this isn't a knock on the people I lived with in Pennsylvania. It's just that they were not where I wanted to be in life. They were happy where they were. They were content. And one day I just packed up the car and I moved to Florida, and it really changed my life because I surrounded myself with people that were multimillionaires, and they influenced me. And one thing is, they never gave me money. They never gave me anything like that. But what they did give me was opportunity and a hand up to say, hey, look, why don't you try this? Why don't you try that? And you wound up becoming successful, and not only monetarily successful, but mentally successful, spiritually successful, physically successful. All came with it. And I don't think people realize the magnitude of who you surround yourself with really does come into play.
Yeah. Well, and it really drives home, your thoughts do become reality. That may sound crazy to some people, but when you think on a negative level, on a majority of the time, your negative thoughts become your reality. Everything you think, every decision you make today is going to affect tomorrow, the next day, next week, next month, next year. And the more you understand that, the better your life is going to be. So you can control the negative thoughts versus the positive thoughts. And you are 100% right. When you're around those multimillionaires, there's this stereotype I grew up with where rich people were evil, money was evil, rich people were bad. And when you break that and you actually become a part of the group and you hang around these rich people, you very quickly realize that most of them are more than willing to help you and give you good advice and steer you in the right direction, because they got there because somebody did that for them. They got there because of their positive mindset. And the top performers don't have fewer problems. They just have a stronger mindset.
Yep. Yeah. It's interesting because for years I did Santa Claus. I had volunteered my time doing Santa Claus for Toys for Tots for the Marine Corps. You being a Marine are probably familiar with Toys for Tots.
Yeah.
And volunteered a lot. Well, when I wound up going with these people that, were a little bit more successful in life, I wound up doing more Santa Claus stuff and giving back more to the community. And they got involved with the police force. And next thing you know, we're going to the bad areas of the city and giving out toys to kids that are probably never going to have a Christmas, let alone a birthday party or anything like that. And just giving back to those kids and being involved with the people that were so charitable, that were successful in life, was such an influence upon me that I still do Santa Claus. And actually now Shayna, she does Mrs. Claus with me. So we do it now for the kids. We do it for the seniors. We do it for the underprivileged kids. And before, I would only do it once a year. I'd get tired of doing it. I'd want to get paid. Now I do it for free, and I enjoy every moment of it. So I totally get what you're saying. Just, it's the little things like that that influence you in life.
100%. And there's a book that I just read that called The Go-Giver. And it's amazing book. But when you doing what you're doing and you start to realize one of the things that I didn't understand, and you hear about donating and you hear about helping out and volunteering, and some people do, but once you actually really take the time to help people, the feeling, the generosity comes back tenfold every single time. And I have people sometimes that, are like, I don't have a direction. I don't know where I'm going. How do I know what to do? And I've always said, when you get stuck and you don't know what to do, find somebody to help. And that has stayed true. And I will live by that. If you don't know what to do in life, find somebody to help. Find somebody who needs your assistance in some way. Reach out and help them. That will give you direction in life. The feeling that gives you of helping somebody else out. I've never met anybody who didn't do that, who didn't volunteer, who didn't walk away going, that was amazing. And then the positive comes back tenfold every single time. It is so true. The more you give, the more you get. And people hear that and they think, oh, that's just, motivational garbage. It's not. And I know the truth is that the more you give, the more you volunteer, the more you can help others, the more it comes back.
I know doing Santa Claus every year, some of the same kids would come back every year. Now, some of them are in their 20s now and have kids of their own, but I'd get letters and I'd take these letters home. And I remember my oldest daughter and she was about 6 years old, she found the letters in the closet. She says, Dad, why do you have all these little kids' Christmas lists? I was like, I'm holding them for Santa, Right. But it was definitely, the mothers and the fathers would come up to me personally afterwards, and, they knew who you were. And they'd be like, we're coming back next year because our kids know you as Santa. And when you heard that touched your heart, and you didn't know. And you don't do it for connections. You do it to give, but you don't know how many doors that opened for me. Just, the first time I ever rode in a Lamborghini was when I was doing Santa Claus, because a car dealership, somebody that I connected with, volunteered to come out and let Santa show up in a Lamborghini. And just little things like that. I mean, it goes a long way.
Well, and you're so right. It's funny because I always dreamed of having a Ferrari or Lamborghini when I was young. Now I'm surrounded by Ferraris, Lamborghinis, Bentleys. And it's not because I did anything spectacular. It's because I was not afraid to be who I am. It's because I started helping people. And it's not about me being the smartest guy on the planet and being super successful. It was because I just was genuinely me, and I did the best I could, and I was open about it, and I helped people. And what started happening in my life is the more genuine I was, the more I helped people, the most successful people I knew would come over to me and go, I want to work with you. I love what you're doing. I've recently had this happen again. Somebody who I'm going to keep very anonymous, who is multimillionaire hundreds of times over, super successful in his life, doesn't have to work, but he works because what else is he going to do? Because he loves to work. He's ambitious. But I've known him for about 5-6 years now. And I've never really partnered with him because I didn't feel I had anything to offer. What could I possibly give this unbelievable, successful, person in so many businesses? And it wasn't too long ago, I'm saying a few months ago, he reached out to me and he basically set up a meeting with me. And I'm like, why is he setting up a meeting with me? I'm like, okay, that's cool. We're friends, right? We're friends. We hang out, we go to parties together, things like that. But why does he want to set up a meeting with me? What do I have that he wants to? And he basically said to me, listen, I've watched your journey over the past 5 or 6 years. I've seen you evolve, and I love what you're doing. And I don't want to change that, but I want to be partnering with you somehow. I want to find a way to work together because I love what you're doing.
Wow.
And I was just like, that's why I do what I do. That's why I open up and I help. And I've just become, this is just me. And the more you're genuine and the more you reach out and help people, the more the opportunities find you.
Yeah. So who's your ideal person that if somebody wants to reach out to you for, coaching or, a little guidance, who should be reaching out to you, or who do you think, could use your help?
So, that is a person like me. I was that person, right? You are, you tend to be who you develop. And when you do things in business, you tend to come from all your past, all the things I've learned from, all the mistakes, all my fears. I am my own avatar in a way, but that person really is somebody who feels stuck, like they were meant for more. But somebody who's not a victim. Somebody who wants to be the victor and not be the victim, somebody who takes responsibility, somebody who just wants to better themselves and create a better life for themselves and their family and for everybody around them, right? And that's really all it is that person is just somebody who wakes up every single day and wants to have a nice life, wants to be happy, wants to create a better life for themselves and their family. And they're willing to help others and, help themselves. But you have to be willing to grow, willing to learn, willing to look in the mirror every single day and take responsibility for what I did failed, what I did was wrong. Or even if it's not what you did, the best leaders are the ones who take responsibility. So, I have companies that come to me now and want me to do speaking events. And the best leaders take responsibility for what's going on in their team. You may have not directly done something, but somebody needs to take ownership. Once you take ownership, you can then begin the process of fixing things or making things better.
What's that saying? A leader takes a little less share of the credit and more share of the blame.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a fantastic quote.
Yeah, I've lived by that when I worked in pharmaceuticals and stuff, and my I was an hourly employee as a supervisor. And my union employees would do something, make a mistake. And my boss would come down, and a lot of the other supervisors would say, well, it was Jim over here on the press machine or something. But I would turn and say, well, look, I told Jim to do this. This is on me. And what I found was that when I did that, I had the loyalty of my employees and the people that work for me directly, because they realized that, you were willing to fall on the sword for them, because ultimately you're the leader. You made the decision to be the leader. You made the mistake. by allowing something to happen. And sure, people need to be held responsible for their actions, but that's my job to discipline that guy, not my boss's job. My boss comes to me. And I found that when I did that, it actually got me a good rapport to the point where a lot of the employees would, invite me to their house for Christmas and stuff like that, which was, they weren't doing that with anybody else.
Yeah. Yeah. And leadership is a huge topic that I talk about, and it's really, really easy to find good leaders and to recognize bad leaders, because the bad leaders take credit for everything, but take responsibility for nothing. Right. Yes. And then the opposite is true. Good leaders take responsibility and give credit. And great leaders ask great questions. That's right, though. Those things are how you either become a good leader or spot a good leader.
So this is my father always told me. My father, same story as you. He was a Marine. My father never finished high school. He dropped out, and him and my uncle had a very successful construction company in the 90s until my uncle passed away of cancer. And, my father always said, give them the tools, let the people figure it out. You'd be surprised what your people can do if you just give them the free reins and the tools.
Yep.
And I learned a lot of leadership from him because of that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
one of the best pieces of advice on hiring too is, since we're talking about it, is hire fast, fire faster, and promote fastest.
Yeah, that's interesting because, a lot of people, when it comes to hiring people, will hire somebody just because they have an immediate need. And then they realize that their employee is not really up for it, but they need to fill the gap right away.
Yep. And it's really important. And that can set you back for years. There are a lot of companies out there who will hire fast because they have a need. But then when they have a mediocre employee or somebody who's really not fitting the bill, they keep giving them chance after chance after chance. And I'm not saying don't give people a second chance or even a third chance, but you have to be able to recognize when this person is a drain on the team, on the work, and you need to be able to cut them loose quickly, because it does affect the business for years to come. And then when you have that rock star, though, when you do find that diamond in the rough, you need to promote very quickly. And a lot of companies out there tend to try to get as much out of them as possible before promoting them, and put that off and giving them pay raises. And that's how they lose amazing people, because they wait too long. But if you recognize immediately that you have a rock star, then you promote them immediately. You give them that raise immediately. And what you do is you create loyalty, and they'll be with you for a long, long time.
Now, Rob, if somebody wants to reach out to you or get a hold of you to speak with you, maybe, talk to you, or maybe even enlist your services to help them out, where are some places that they can find you and connect with you?
Absolutely. I'm all over social media. I'm on Instagram and LinkedIn at Rob Nickester. As well as I'm on Facebook, and inspirex.co is my website for our InspireX company, which is where we help people. And we don't just help people, like I said, on a personal level. We also have company. Part of our company is to help companies level up and 10X their company. So we will work with companies, and I have some amazing people that are working with me in my company now. And one particular coach that works with me now, his expertise is leveling up companies, helping them go from 1X to 10X, and helping you develop your exit strategy. So if you build a company and you're making $1 million a year, he can help you. I work on the mindset piece. I work on the team building and with the team, but he works with the company on leveling up the revenue from 1X to 10X. That's his specialty. And he's got a pretty amazing track record. And once you 10X your company, it's like, well, what do we do? What do we do at this point when we've reached our goals? Well, you really need an exit strategy, right? You need to be able to sell that company when you get older and build a legacy, whatever you're going to do. Pass it on to the next generation. You need an exit strategy. And so we can even help in specializing in creating that.
And you do that nationwide, worldwide?
Yeah. Yes. Nationwide and worldwide. I have clients all over the world.
Wow. Wow. And so I always wrap up the interviews and the podcast with one question. If you could go back to 1978 and talk to that little boy that got hit by that school bus, what is one thing you would tell the younger Rob Nickester?
Oh man, one thing I would tell the younger, be more patient, listen more, and talk less. And that's, there are those of us who have the gift to talk, and I love to talk, and I can have a conversation with anybody. But in my journey, probably one of the most important things I have learned for myself is, especially being a leader now, is listen more and talk less.
So there you have it, everybody. Listen to Rob. He's got a lot of great advice. Rob, it has been an amazing pleasure to have you on the show today. I really appreciate it. And you're a mountain of knowledge and wisdom. I mean, I feel like I could sit here and talk to you for 4 hours.
Thank you. I feel the same way. I really appreciate being here. It's been fun. I've loved talking to you.
So if you guys get a chance, go to Rob's websites, check him out, hit him up if you need something, or you just somebody want to talk to him and feel out what's going on. And he can probably break down a little bit more than what he did today for custom people and custom curtail what you have, whether you're a business or an individual or a business owner. I'm sure Rob could help you out, and make sure you guys reach out to him. So